to the greatest wrestling podcast in the history of wrestling podcasts. On this show, we talk about Night of Champions, the Bloodline, Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, Gunther, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Money in the Bank, and everything else. This will quite possibly be the greatest show in the history of Jabroni Drive. Tim, do you have anything you want to say to all the Schmidt Lavelites out there?
The 10 people streaming us across any social media platforms. Oh, let's get ready to podcast.
Oh my God.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah, brother. Fucking A right.
What a beginning to a show. As we said, this is Jabroni Drive, and we got a lot of things we want to talk about. My name is Tom Lavelle. I'm accompanied by Mr. Timothy Schmidt. This is Jabroni Drive, as I just said probably 4 times. If you like what we're doing, please like it, share, follow, subscribe, whatever it is you got to do out there. Tell your friends if they like wrestling, say you got to listen to this podcast. These guys know what they're talking about. At least one of them knows what they're talking about, and the other guy rambles on about stuff, okay? We won't tell you which one knows what they're talking about.
I was going to say, which one am I?
On this week's show, we talk about Night of Champions. We review another great PLE, Premium Live Event, or pay-per-view, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Talk about the Bloodline, the hottest story in the last 2 decades in WWE. AJ Styles and Seth Rollins, Brock and Cody, Cody's broken arm. We'll get into that a little bit later. Gunther, Mustafa Ali. Who's Gunther's next opponent? Who's he going to face? Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. The Money in the Bank coming up. The new pay-per-view that's coming up. Another installment of Money in the Bank. One of the greatest pay-per-views each year in the WWE. Alpha Academy. Jinder Mahal. This year, or today in wrestling history. And a little bit of homework that we had over the weekend. Tim, let's dive right into it. Night of Champions, another great pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever you want to call it. They've now nailed 2 in a row since WrestleMania. After WrestleMania, we've talked about how it was the storylines, this and that. They have nailed 2 of these pay-per-views in a row. I've thoroughly enjoyed both of them. Just real quick, your thoughts on the pay-per-view overall. What did you think of it?
Oh, well, first of all, Tom, I just want to say Happy Memorial Day to you.
Yeah, Happy Memorial Day.
And to the country and anyone that served for us in defending this great country. Hopefully you had a good weekend there, Tommy.
Wow, what a great thing to say, Tim.
Hey.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. That is, that's like a word you would use, reiterate. Reiterate?
What could be the word day. Word of the day, baby.
Day. But so reiterate, thank you to all those people that were out there and served our country, the greatest country in the world as far as I'm concerned. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, so the premium live event, as we like to call them, the pay-per-view. So again, like the one thing that jumped out to me, right? I go right to the first match, and the thing that drove me nuts was that we're showcasing this new heavyweight championship belt, okay? And we're right out the gate. This is the first match. Like, in my eyes, I think I said this on the show last week, that has to be the premium spot. It has to be your main event. And I didn't like it out the gate, right? But as the pay-per-view developed, or the premium live event developed, we saw how it all unfolded. And at the end of the show, I was okay with kind of how they orchestrated the matches in that order. I thought it was a really good pay-per-view. 5 matches, 6 matches. It was
so total. There was AJ Styles, Seth Rollins. We had Trish and Becky. We had Gunther, Mustafa Ali. Well, it's tough because you have the squash by Rhea Ripley, so that's in there. Then you have the
Bianca Belair.
Bianca Belair, and you have the tag title match. Am I missing any? I want to say six.
Yeah.
Oh
Little
gosh, I hope I'm not missing any, but I feel
so
like I'm missing one.
I mean, I know we've had some pretty crazy cards, but is that a little underwhelming? Am I missing on that, or just in
No,
terms of
no, because is that not a lot of matches? Is that what you're saying? It's
yeah, is that
underwhelming that way, Tim? I love the not a lot of matches. I think that that's a good thing for pay-per-views because one, you're going to give time to your performers to tell the story in a match and develop what's happening in that match. Did I say Cody versus Brock? I think I missed Cody versus Brock. I'm going to say 7 matches. And I think yeah, there were 7 matches. So
okay?
I can't believe I missed Cody versus Brock. That's shame on me. But
So
even 7 matches is not a lot for a pay-per-view premium live event, whatever you want to call it. So it gives the wrestlers a chance to tell their story. It gives them time in ring and to go. And basically, it was 6 matches because the Becky or the Rhea Ripley match lasted 1 minute and 10 seconds.
an Italian match, yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I thought from start to finish, it flowed really well. We we both saw Seth Rollins winning that belt, right?
As predicted on this show, we
Yeah.
decided that he was going to win mathematically. It had to be. They need that belt on Monday Night Raw. We'll get to that a little bit later, though, the Raw and the SmackDown quote unquote split. But go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I thought the match went well as expected, right? With those two performers. A lot of counters in that match. The one thing I really did enjoy was the pedigree by AJ Styles on Seth Rollins, which was kind of out of nowhere. You haven't seen that, kind of before. I think he also did the Styles Clash off the top rope too. Did he not do that?
Yeah. Styles clash off the top. And the other spot in the match that I said I enjoyed, Seth traditionally does like a suplex off the top and then goes into I want to say a Falcon Arrow, it's called. And he did it like it was a backwards suplex into a backwards slam, which was a twist on an old move. And these are the things that I love seeing as a fan. Now, this will be my knock on a Randy Orton, and I'm not saying Randy Orton isn't great, but it's the same old moves. A Cesaro, who I loved, a Sheamus, a Gunther. These guys are putting twists on their moves. Bret the Hitman Hart used to do it all the time. He would walk around the ring and say, how can I put the sharpshooter in this position or a figure four here? Or how do I make it the same move, but a little bit of a twist or different? And AJ Styles dropping a pedigree on Seth Rollins, one, is great for telling a story in a match. Two, it's like, oh, wow, he just did his move to him.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
very cool thing. A Styles clash off the top is a twist on a move that it amps up the match. It makes it more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, and we're seeing these wrestlers do this more and more. Like we saw with Rollins do the stomp on Omos off the top rope, right? We saw that.
Exactly. Yes.
So these guys are figuring out ways, right, to, as you said, reinvent themselves or even expand upon what they already do well. And they're taking it to new heights. And yeah, that happens with everything in sports. And it's great to see them develop these moves on a higher level. It makes them look even better, right, in ring. And then it makes for better entertainment in the match too as well. So we see obviously Seth Rollins win the title. Triple H comes out, yeah, hands him the title. Pretty solid moment. It's good that you're seeing a lot, in my opinion, a lot of Triple H, right? Yeah, all the doubters out there about whether he's in control, creative. He's firmly put himself on TV as the guy. So
Right.
Obviously, he can't wrestle anymore, but he is the one that's pulling the strings in terms of what they want to showcase on television, right? So anytime there's a big announcement, anytime there's a big match, right? Triple H is out in front. And the one thing that I really think is cool what they're doing, and I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but they're doing these press conferences,
I love
right?
the press conferences.
And some of them can be hokey a little bit, but some of them give you a little bit of insight into the actual character, what they're thinking, right? And part of it is they're still in character, and some of it is like real, right? And you
Right.
see real moments from these guys after their matches, and I think it kind of builds the brand in a different way.
And develops the storylines, and it
Yeah,
does a lot of things for them. And part of that is, and we've talked about it multiple times, is that realism. You have a press conference in UFC after you win a fight, you have a press conference. After you lose, you have a press conference. And Dana White talks to the press and this and that. And Triple H is doing that too. And it makes it feel more real and gives you that idea of like, okay, this is what's happening. And Triple H is in a great spot because he has said that he is in charge of creative. It's been said he's been at the front. He's been in the front of everything, all these major announcements and everything like that. And still the fans are saying anything that goes wrong, that's Vince putting his twist on thing. And anything that goes right, Triple H gets the credit. So right now he's in a great spot where he can do no wrong because anything that's wrong is Vince's fault. And anything that's right, well, that must be Triple H writing it. And a guy we've talked about too named Rob Fee, who is in charge of long-term creative. So Tim, what I want to get to is the big story from this weekend and the pay-per-view, the final match, and we're going to come back to Seth and AJ Styles as well, because we both had the same initial thought, why is this on first? And as you said, as the event played out, we realized that it was so the big moment of the night, the tag team championship match with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Great build up to the match. Sami Zayn comes out. He speaks in the native tongue, their language, to the crowd, which you could tell it was a big pop for them, and he's talking to them. The match going on, and of course, this is a great match. A lot of energy, a lot of falls or close calls and in the falls and everything like that. And it comes down to they're now out of the ring. The Usos come in. They take out Kevin Owens. They bury him under a
referee's knocked out.
table. Referee's knocked out from the spear. And
Mhm.
there was some interesting stuff too, where Roman was yelling at the referee, right, and saying like, "I'm telling you to do this. Shut up." Like I'll tell
Mhm.
you what we're doing, this and that, because he should have been disqualified for a couple things there. And then he accidentally spears the referee. Referee's out. They take out Kevin Owens. They come in and they go for the super kick, the double super kick on Sami Zayn, and they kick Solo to where everyone's like, "Oh, whoa, that was a mistake. They should not have kicked." Like, there's already been tensions brewing. What's going to happen here? Next thing you know, Roman comes in. He slaps, pushes him away, pushes Jimmy away. And now him and Jay are in each other's faces. Roman's yelling at him. Day one is over. This is done. He's mean mugging him. He's grabbing him in the face and throwing him to and he's yelling at him. And then out of nowhere comes the super kick from Jimmy Uso, and the pop was nuclear. Everyone, whoa, what is happening right here? Tim, obviously the biggest moment of the pay per view. This storyline is been so well done. It's one of the greatest storylines, and part of me seeing it makes me sad because I know eventually it's going to end. And as a wrestling fan that's been following this for 30 years, you don't get many moments like this. What did you think of that moment? What did you think of everything that went down, and what stood out to you in that?
Um, so the timing on everything was pretty impeccable, and again with like rehearsing this stuff, right? Like there's only one shot to get it right.
It's
Um,
live, baby.
yeah, and that's what makes like what you talk about storytelling, right? What makes this moment so great is Roman is out of the ring. And dude, it's everything, it's how the camera's positioned, right? And it gives you, kind of a wide look into what's actually going on, right? So you see Roman, he's outside the ring, he's on his knees, and he's like coming to a little bit, and you see him, you look to the right, and they see, the Usos super kick solo, right? And he sees the remnants of that, like, and the timing is just like impeccable on it. And he's stunned. Like, why are you kicking solo? And then all of a sudden, just the build up to that, the doubt, right, with the Usos, and how Roman's been treating them, and Solo has kind of been undermining, the whole bloodline, and him and Heyman have kind of been off to the side. Like, there's all these different storylines that are kind of intertwining within
So
the
many
bloodline.
layers to
Yeah.
this story.
And it's like, which way could this go? And what makes this whole thing great is that the last person that you suspected that was going to do this is the guy that actually did it.
Jimmy pulled the trigger, and you thought
Jimmy,
it had to be Jay or
yep.
Solo.
So they put so much effort, right, into making you think that Jay is going to be the guy that breaks the camel's back, right? That's the guy that's going to really turn this thing upside down. And, it's the other brother, right?
Yeah. And in the
It's,
end, he's still loyal to Roman. He's yelling Joe, which is Roman's real name, as they're pulling out Joe, like checking on Roman,
yeah,
and it's like this was supposed to be the guy that said enough, and I'm pulling away.
yeah. So, I mean, it's the old, um, hidden ball trick, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's what they
they
did. Like,
swerved us.
they make you think that, hey, look, hey, it's under cup number 3, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get hit with, it's under cup number 1, and it's Jimmy Uso who drives a spike into what the bloodline is. And yeah, you can say it's been the greatest probably faction, right?
One of the
If you want
most
to call it a
dominant in the
fraction.
history of
Yeah,
professional wrestling. I mean, you could say the most dominant.
yeah. So I thought it's just well done. And give the credit to the other wrestlers too for just staying out of the ring, staying out of kind of the way of letting that story unfold. And then, obviously with how it ended up, was just a perfect ending, right? It tied itself up into a nice little bow. The Usos leave the ring right after the super kicks. Right, a referee comes down after the KO, and Sammy, finish the story on those guys, and
Yeah.
you're left to see
Well, Roman's
what's.
out of the ring. He doesn't get pinned. Solo takes the pin. So you don't
Mhm.
have Roman still getting pinned, and it's been years since he's been pinned.
Yep.
And you got Sami Zayn then holding up the titles, telling Roman you can't have them. He tweeted out, lost a battle, won the war. I don't think it's over for you, Sammy. I mean, I know we're moving away from that, and we should be moving away from Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Bloodline, but I don't think it's over yet for you. Um, the moment that stood out to me, Tim, and this is something that, and these guys improvise. They're out there and they're professionals. They've been doing this for a while. When he hits that second super kick on Roman after he says to Jay, I'm doing what you should have done a long time ago. I got your back. It's me and you now. And he super kicks Roman again. And the yell, that like organic, like, ah, where he like lets it out. It's like, whoa, like, holy shit. Like, that to me was incredible storytelling, whether it was meant to be or not, but like that you could tell that yell, that weight of it's done. I'm done. I'm taking myself away from you, and we're moving on. It's me and Jay now. And Jay still, I think, questioning like, what am I really doing here? So that whole moment, incredible moment in wrestling history. I think they're going to be talking about that for years. to be honest. And there's going to be shows about that moving on. And when they interview these guys about that stuff, that's going to be great stuff to listen to. Where do we go from here? It seems like you said they've tied a bow on maybe the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn involvement for now.
No,
You
I think
had
I
the
think I think the bow really was tied on, how that match ended. Really, that's what I'm kind of referencing. Is
okay,
like,
okay,
hey, they walked away, right? Obviously, yeah, there's more to come with that. Like, it's not done. It's
yeah.
You don't just tie something up in a pay-per-view event and nothing, falls out from it. All right, like you're gonna see more development on that. But it was just a nice way to tie up the pay-per-view or the PLE, for that night. Where does it go from here? I don't.
Now Roman and Paul, they are going to be on SmackDown this week. They're going to address this.
Mm,
How does Roman address this?
um, I mean, he's done it kind of head on every time, right? He wants to be in control, right? He's the alpha, right? Obviously Paul Heyman's going to be there in his corner, probably in his ear, doing certain. I just don't know um how it's handled. There's rumors of like Rikishi coming on. I think I mentioned that to you on SmackDown or
Yeah, no,
whatever.
yeah, I saw that. He tweeted
Um,
something out enough with this whole scenario, and it's I guess he's saying enough of Roman's quote unquote abuse.
right. Um, I mean, he has to, right? He has to be thrusted into some type of match, right? He has to defend his belt, right? So where does that go from here, right? Like that's the question that's being asked. Like, where does it is it a singles match? Like, is it with one of the Usos? Is it solo? Like, I think there's still more time to kind of develop where this heads. And I think that's what's great about WWE is like you have no idea where he's going to go with it on Friday night, right? He might come out and put the blame on somebody else, or like it's going to be difficult to see or predict where that's going to go. But I mean, yeah, I can see him trying to keep the bloodline in terms of him and Solo kind of together. Maybe it's a tag match versus those two.
What if
You know,
Rikishi comes out and they beat down Rikishi? That's the Usos' dad. It's Solo's dad too, but you beat down Rikishi and call out the Usos. I'm seeing a tag team match come up from this.
and then Too Cool runs down and saves Rikishi.
WORM Worm. I wish that would happen. Too Cool was what it was an incredible tag team. They were way over. Scotty Too Hottie, you know, was awesome. So one of the biggest moments in wrestling in the last year and maybe of all time. I don't think it was as big as Sammy hitting Roman with the chair, but it's right there. So as we were talking about earlier, AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins, incredible match. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, that's what started the show. And I tweeted something out there that, hey, I thought this new belt was supposed to be the belt. They're trying to make it very prestigious. There's been a lot of rumors about it becoming the belt. It wasn't a consolation prize. Well, when they started it on the show, it's like, well, yes, it is a consolation prize. It is something that's not the main event. It is not this thing. And I tweeted out, obviously, we found out later, hindsight's 2020 as a fan. Okay, this is what's happening. That was their plan. Great match. Seth came out on Monday Night Raw this week, and the crowd was super hot for him. They're singing his song. And lo and behold, as it's going on, what happens, Tim? AJ Styles comes out. AJ Styles was drafted to SmackDown. I know we've said it before. Was this draft a complete waste of time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it proves time and time again. We talked about there's people on brands that are holding the belts for the other brand. Like what is, again, you put all this time and effort into making a fake draft, and these guys aren't even on the same on the shows that they're supposed to be on. So I just scrap it, dude. Like stop
Yeah.
stop
Stop.
selling this whole draft thing. And look, it's not. We hear it every once in a while, right? Like I think that's the first time I've heard the draft, mentioned since the draft when AJ Styles brought it up. He's like, I know I was got drafted by SmackDown and I'm here on Raw, but after we don't really hear it again, like throughout the year, right? Like, oh, why is he here on SmackDown? He's a Raw superstar, or like he was drafted. Like, I don't know. I just think the whole idea is silly. I don't know if it's just a TV rights thing where they have to have certain people on certain shows, but it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, if they're going to keep on crossing back and forth, then let it be, dude. Just let
Yeah.
everyone you don't have to have the Raw branded. You just go back to the WWE brand. You have a SmackDown show, you have a Raw show, and that's that.
Yeah. At that point, just draft the belts. Say this belt's on this show and this belt's on that show, and leave everyone else wherever they're at. Because currently, you got AJ Styles coming over to Raw whenever he feels like. The tag teams are on whatever it is they want. And you got the women's Raw champion drafted to SmackDown, and you got the SmackDown women's champion drafted to Raw. So what the fuck is going on with the draft? Pardon my language. I'm trying to use less curse words as we're on here,
Probably,
Tim.
probably has and look, these wrestlers probably have contracts too where they can only work so many shows.
Right.
Yeah. And or I don't know, it could be something along those lines. And I just don't get it. I really don't. I don't know.
No, you're not the only one, and there's nothing really to get besides it's a waste of time, and they shouldn't really be doing it. The draft, make it make sense. If you're gonna do it, make it make sense, okay? And since they've done it, what did they do it a month ago? It hasn't made sense since. So, who do you think? Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, they had a little feud there with the Judgment Day, and it led to the main event. And it was a good Raw. You're not going to get a ton from this Monday Night Raw because they're going to start to build into the Money in the Bank premium live event, which is
Or
coming up. What's
good.
that?
I'm sorry. No, get again.
And so my question is for you: we've got the new heavyweight champion, WWE heavyweight champion. Who would you like his next opponent to be?
Hmm. Um. So it's strict. See, again, like I'm thinking about like the rosters and trying to
Don't
figure
think
out.
about the rosters. Forget the rosters. I know
Eh,
you got a Gunther on there, and you got stuff like that. You got the Judgment Day that's on there, and that's where I think I'm going to head with this. I think you get a chance to go him against, and they kind of teased it. Dominic Mysterio. I think you can put him out there and have the Judgment Day coming after Seth Rollins, and you have Dominic Mysterio go against him in the next premium live event. Put on a good match, have Seth win, and he can retain the title and carry it going forward into SummerSlam. That's my hope.
see, I'm out on that. I what I like more, and this is I think I brought this up last time, and I thought for some reason that Mustafa Ali was going to beat Gunther. At the premium live event, which by the way was an incredible match. Um, Gunther has not put on a terrible match since I think I've seen him wrestle. And
Guy never has a bad match.
yeah,
He's so underrated, I think, by the casual fan.
and so you bring I I still think that like Gunther, look, they're gonna probably want to keep him as the Intercontinental Champion because that belt does have a lot of history to it. A lot of big names have worn that belt for years and years and years in the past, right? Not years at a time. I'm just saying like big names have held that belt. And he is certainly a big name right now. But I mean, is it time for Gunther to be pushed into that main event, like world heavyweight champion type atmosphere yet? Like, I mean, we've lost I haven't seen him in so long. We've lost
Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre now, where he hasn't been on TV for at least 2 months since WrestleMania, right?
Still in contract negotiations, and his contract's coming to an end soon.
So he's gone. You need another player in that division. And he has everything that you want in that type of in that division, right? You need somebody that's going to carry a belt, and he proved that he can carry the Intercontinental. I would love to see like a Dominic Mysterio be put on, give him the belt. And like you could probably have him hold it for a little while with the Judgment Day, right? Like you can have him uh put a belt on Dominic and he keeps on winning with interference, like very similar to how some of the Bloodline have held on to their belts, right?
Right.
Like maybe I don't know. I just
At
don't.
some point, you do have to put some hardware on the Judgment Day. If you're gonna have them keep coming out and getting involved, they it seemed like they were in bed with the Bloodline and Roman for a little bit, or even
Mm.
an Imperium. It's like, okay, there's only so much these guys can talk about being we run this show. It's like, well, you don't have any belts. The only one that has a belt is Rhea. Everyone else is just standing there, you know, talking shit. You don't back it up. So I see what you're saying. Put a belt on him. I think though, when WWE thinks about it, and there's a lot of things going on, these belts and how long you've held it. Gunther is coming up on the all-time longest Intercontinental Championship, which is held by the Honky Tonk Man. And I want to say it's not out of his reach, and I feel like we might be able to see him get to that achievement.
Yeah, but like, what do we? That's what we're doing with every belt now. So
I
Roman
know.
has. I mean, we've all talked about how you put some stock behind these belts when you hold it for a longer period of time.
Right.
But now we have three belts. Well, the Usos obviously just lost the tag teams, but I mean they had it for a record period of time, right? Roman Reigns has held the Universal for a record period of time. Gunther's coming up on breaking that record.
Right.
It's yeah.
I wonder how close Theory is on the United States title reign. He probably isn't too far off,
Yeah.
to be honest, but that's a whole nother story. All right, so there's a lot of people out there that could go with Seth Rollins. You can really put him against anyone, and we'll see what happens with that. All right, Brock versus Cody Lesnar, or Brock versus Cody Lesnar. Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes was one of the main events for this show of Night of Champions. Tim, what did you think of the match overall? I know we have some complaints with the story in this. Does anyone believe that Cody broke his arm?
No one believes that Cody broke his arm. I mean, it's ridiculous that they continue to push this whole angle. It makes no sense. I mean, he's using his broken arm as a weapon
Yeah,
during
that was
during the
ridiculous too. Your arm's broken and you're slamming it again. No, that's not happening. But it's
yeah
it's titanium that's covering it.
yeah. I don't know. We keep on talking about how great like these matches have been, and the last pay per views, the last premium live events have been really good, and the storytelling's been great. It just this Cody Brock thing has so many holes in it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, the wrestling has been good.
Yeah,
The in ring stuff has been good, but you don't need the whole
broken arm.
broken arm titanium thing. Like, put him in a sling for a little bit, right? Let him work it out. I guess. I don't know. I mean, what are they trying to accomplish here with the broken arm?
Yeah, it's
Like,
too much. It's a miss. It's definitely a miss on that. I think we said it on last week's show. Say something, maybe a ligament damage or something, like, okay, he's injured, but a broken arm. There's not a person in the world that is beating Brock Lesnar in a fight with a broken arm. There's no one in the world that's doing that. Okay, and unless it's like some lucky super kick by, I don't know, John Bones Jones gets an incredible kick to the face or something, and it doesn't get touched on that broken arm, but whatever. No one is beating Brock Lesnar with a broken arm. And we just said it before on the show earlier, believability. Okay. If he's got a broken arm, there's no way, especially if he's in the hold that got his arm broken for 5 minutes in the match. You know that it's like this is ridiculous. He would break it again. He'd break it even more if he's got him in that hold for so long.
Yeah,
I will
and
say this. I'm sorry, Tim, to cut you off, but I will say this that the sell on it I thought was good. It was something like you could see how much pain he was. And once he got him into kind of that seated position where there was nowhere to go, it was like, well, where is he gonna go now? I mean, he's
uh,
stuck. And for the first time, and then the second time to do it, kind of a lame, he passed out, this or that, but it's that is the story. I feel like they dropped the ball.
I like to your point. I like how he gets to the ropes, right? The first one, he reaches. It looks like from the camera angle that he's not even close.
Right.
And when he gets to the rope, you're like, damn, I mean, it's pretty impressive that he got to the rope, right? It's a pretty tremendous feat to get through Brock Lesnar. And then the way he hits the what's it called? The Cody, not the Cody cutter,
Yeah, the Cody Cutter. Or no,
the
Crossroads.
crossroads. He hits the crossroads and he tries to go for a third time and then he gets put in it again, right? Like, um, it was a rather quick match, was it not?
Well, that's Brock. Traditionally, he has quick matches on the
Mm.
card. Where was it? It was real quick, 9 minutes and 40 seconds. So it was
A lot
besides
of
Rhea Ripley, it was the second quickest match. So it wasn't very long.
so do we get a third
Oh
match?
yeah, he challenged him on Raw to a third match, and I want to say it's going to happen at Money in the Bank. And I showed you that picture. We both got a good chuckle out of it of, Cody Rhodes in a wheelchair, all casted up, going against Brock Lesnar. Insurmountable. There's no way he can
Well,
even compete. This won't be a sanctioned match.
well, the way that this whole trilogy is playing out, uh, look, Cody Rhodes has to lose, right? He has to be somewhat mortal. You can't you can't go up against Brock Lesnar and beat him all three times like he did with Seth Rollins when he first came in. He came in with
Right.
Seth Rollins, beats him, and then comes back with the torn pec and beats him again. Like, big props to Seth Rollins, by the way, for doing that because he's putting the guy over big time. Obviously, he's going out anyway on surgery. So for Seth Rollins to be as an established wrestler in the company to do that was pretty impressive. It's selfless and it helps out the company and in total. And it shows what a professional he is. But you can't do the same with Brock Lesnar because he's bigger than life. You come across these superstars in the WWF that are or WWE. I apologize, that are bigger than almost like what the company is, right? Like Brock Lesnar is one of those people, right? Like
Absolutely.
Stone Cold was one of those guys. The Rock was one of those guys. Hulk Hogan was always one of those guys. Brock Lesnar's one of those guys, and you just can't have Cody just wipe the floor with him. And I don't know how this next match is going to go out. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to establish credibility with him and his character and his toughness, his resiliency. Um, but what they do with that, right, is going to be the key. So you do this trilogy with Brock. Now, what are you gonna do with it? Now that you build him up into this just polished, like completely polished, like he's so over at this point, right? Where do you go with it now? Does he
Yeah.
finish his story now? Does he have that match with Roman Reigns? Because I said before, the only way he finishes the story is if he beats Roman Reigns for the Universal title. That's the only way he finishes the story. If they don't make it go that direction, then I think it's a complete failure what you've built over the course of the time that he's arrived to this point right now. I think it's a total failure if they don't let him finish his story.
Right. And the way they're doing things too can also He's over. He's been over, and it can hurt his character when you have it like, oh, what we'll do is it's very old school, like it's the old mentality of wrestling. Oh, we'll have him fight with a broken arm, and that'll make the fans love him even more because he'll have a broken arm and he'll still go. And it's like, look, dude, it's just not believable. I'm sorry, it's not believable. It'll come out next week. Cody Rhodes really does have a broken arm or something. And if anybody would still go with a broken arm, it is Cody Rhodes, as we've seen with the torn pec before. But I think it can actually hurt his character. In like you're saying, if he were to wipe the floor with a Brock Lesnar, it would hurt Brock Lesnar's character, and it would hurt Cody because the fans would see very clearly, hey, this is ridiculous, and they would start to turn on Cody Rhodes because of poor writing where they dropped the ball on it. So the match we want to talk about next is Gunther versus Mustafa Ali. Great match. I thought Ali looked really good in this match. Gunther, as we said moments ago, doesn't seem to ever have a bad match. All his matches seem pretty good. I really enjoyed this match. I thought the story of the match was done really well. In the end, Gunther found a way to win. Tim, what did you think? And I know you weren't very familiar with Mustafa Ali. What did you think of him after the match?
He's very much in the same build as as a Ricochet, right? Like very active around the ring. He's got a great look about him. And he's just, he held up really well with Gunther. Different, obviously contrasting styles, them two. Uh, we've seen this type of match happen, before though, right? With different wrestlers where you have a high flyer in there and a brute, like Gunther, and typically it depends on the skill of the wrestlers, and I think they carried it really well throughout. There's really good moments for Ali where he's flying off the top rope and he's catching. I think he caught what's his? Oh, he does the total flip right off the top rope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to
Off
say
the turnbuckle,
450 it's called.
450
Yeah.
splash. I mean, he hit that.
He nailed
Um,
that. That was like a
yeah,
perfect one. Yeah.
yeah, and there's times in the match where you think like, oh my god, like this dude could really pull it off. He's in front of, I don't know if he's from there, but his maybe his background is in
He
he
had
has
talked
some
about being a wrestler that was going to fight there, and it was going to be someone that looked like the kids in the stands. I didn't really do enough research into where exactly he's from, but like he said, that it's the look of those fans out there, and
right.
so they can relate right away.
So I just felt like it was a good spot. It gives him, I think automatic credibility. Um, in that match and how he came out. Um, and maybe it springboards him into some different type of matches where he does have shots and stuff like that. I know he was on social media, and we're seeing this a little bit more happen, right? And I think it might be, obviously I think it's coached a little bit, right, where
Right.
these guys post these videos on their social media on Twitter, and it's like a minute video of them complaining or doing a testimonial, and then all of a sudden they're in a match, right? We saw it with Xavier Woods, right? Xavier Woods got some
Yes,
publicity
he's
after
done
doing
a
it too.
lot of that. Yes. He
So
won the King of
maybe,
the Ring because of that.
yeah, so maybe this is what we're seeing now is, hey, they're taking to social media, it looks like they're kind of disgruntled, right? And then they go into the ring and they prove themselves and they give it a little bit more, get themselves a little bit more credibility, right? And they get some more exposure on social media for this video. And then, they have a good match, and then we'll see how it plays out. But I really think he came off pretty well, like from what we've seen from him in the past and just on just regular WWE television. He's just been a journeyman guy that's been floating around like a fly backstage and
Yeah, his
gets like
gimmick was a little weird, like,
like he gets tossed in a match like all of a sudden. All right, well, you're gonna fight, so and so, and you're gonna go wrestle him right now. And he has to go down the ring and wrestle somebody, right?
yeah.
And
I think what was this thing like Positive Ali or something like that, like some weird like
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
okay, whatever.
So we'll see how it plays out. But I mean, to give that guy that spot against Gunther, I think he performed well, and I think he delivered.
Yeah. And, that might help him get a shot moving forward. Now, there's been rumors out on who Gunther's next opponent will be. And Tim, I know I wanted to hold it from you to get your raw opinion on that. But the rumor is that Gunther's next opponent will be Matt Riddle. What do you think about that? A matchup between the Bro and Gunther.
Kill me now.
You know what? I feel like it will fit the narrative of Gunther and Imperium, their respect for the traditions of wrestling, and RK Bro, or the Bro is totally opposite of that. But I'm not. We've talked about this before. I'm not buying into Matt Riddle. There's something about him. I don't know if it's just not wearing shoes or what it is, but he's not the guy that I'm invested into. And being with the Gunther can elevate you. So I'm curious to see if they do choose him, if that will go, especially someone that was suspended for a long time because
Yeah, he's got this history. So why would you reward him?
he's
Look,
being rewarded.
uh, and he was before he went off TV. Obviously, him and Randy Orton had a successful tag team. Yeah, the merch probably sales were through the
Well,
roof.
I bet the merch sales are probably pretty high. And that's where a lot of these wrestlers get their push because they're selling merch, and that makes sense. It's a business.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't see it in terms of the entertainment value. I'd rather, dude. I mean, I would have 10 matches of him, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre before I would have one with him and Gunther.
Yeah.
But obviously, you can't keep going down that same road, I guess. But um, I just don't. I
I
don't
don't love
see it.
that pick. I feel like other people could be. I would love to see an LA Knight go against him. I'd love to give Montez Ford a chance to showcase himself against a Gunther, someone that people are interested. I would love a Chad Gable to
Yeah,
go
but
into that.
so that like we go back to the draft, like you have your opportunity then to split those guys. Like why keep together the Street Profits when they're not winning any titles? They're clearly not challenging for any tag team titles. Why not just split them? Let those guys do whatever they got to do on their own, right? Let Montez Ford show off his athleticism, try in the singles
Even
in the
Angelo
singles
Dawkins, I wouldn't hate
yeah.
that. He was a NCAA football player and a All American. I feel like why not have him do something where he gets it, give him his shot too. He's kind of been overlooked in this Street Profits thing. Obviously, Montez Ford, everyone's given him the idea as a bigger star, but like you're saying, split them up and put them in there. I would say Riddle's kind of had his chance and he fumbled, and I feel like should take a back seat for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He comes back, he goes right into the thing with the bloodline against the bloodline, and he's with the hottest. Like, why is Matt Riddle being pushed into these things? I guess it's the merch sales. I don't know. I don't get it. All right, Tim. Well, we covered a lot. One more thing I just want to touch on before we move on. Last week I was very critical of Becky Lynch and her use of what seemed to me very hypocritical of her to bring up the thing. And I guess what I would like to say about that again is Becky Lynch is supposed to be the good guy, the man, is supposed to be the good guy in this whole show. When you start doing things like a Vince McMahon bad guy, where are we? I know you're trying to sell the fight, and I will say I was interested in the outcome of that match because of the things that the promos that Becky Lynch has cut on Trish Stratus. But even the promo on Monday Night Raw where she comes out and said, "I will make your life a living hell," and this and that, is I was like, are you the good guy or are you the bad guy? Like, I'm confused. Your character development isn't very good here. She ends up getting laid out. Trish and Becky both had marks from that match. And I thought it was pretty good. You know, Trish isn't the youngest anymore. And for her to perform pretty well, I thought it was good. I thought Zoey Stark was strong and coming out. But you saw Trish's chin after that match. It was pretty banged up.
Really banged up. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I thought that was a decent match. I will say that I had to give Becky her kudos for drawing me in with that. But I would say, as far as character development, are you the good guy or are you the bad guy? What are you doing here? You know, you try to sell a fight, but you're not coming off as a face.
Well, no, I mean, look, Trish is clearly the antagonist here, right? Like,
Right.
she, I mean, she turned on Becky. So there's going to be some type of vitriol towards her. So, like,
True.
why would you be, look, you're trying to be a face, but like, what are you going to say all nice things to her? Like, you got to be cutthroat, right? Like, you
Yeah,
got
but
stat.
you've got this person that's been fighting for this women's movement and getting the main event at a WrestleMania and all this other stuff and this and that. And then you're going to go throw in the face of the person that has the reason you're able to do that is because of the stuff that Trish, but those were different times. She was doing things back then that were different. They had bra and panties matches back then. You know what I mean? And that she was a sex symbol. And now it's like looked at as like, oh, how pathetic. You know what? Like, no, it was a different time. She wasn't a pathetic person for doing that. She was selling herself, and she did it.
Maybe
And
it's Tom, maybe it's part of the storyline, Tom. Maybe you're using that as, hey, if you wouldn't have done those matches, if you wouldn't have barked like a dog for Vince McMahon, maybe it wouldn't have taken us this long to get a main event at WrestleMania for women. Maybe if you would have stood up every once in a while instead of, you know, getting in a bra and panty and doing a bra and panty match, maybe you would have been a little bit ahead of the curve.
Well,
You
she
know, like,
did. She did stand up. It wasn't that she didn't. It was
mm,
the stuff that she did despite all of that. You know what I mean? And like we
mm,
said, it was a different time. First person to main event a Monday night, first females to main event a Monday Night Raw were her and Lita, you know. Either way, even saying stuff like that is to me heelish. Are you a good guy or are you a bad guy, Becky? What are you? What do you want to be here, you know? And by the way, quit ripping off of Kill Bill. All right. You're not fucking Kill Bill. All right. I'm not a big Becky Lynch fan. Hear me trying to say that, you know. I guess it just comes out of not. But hey,
you
she's
you
doing her
have
job. She's
you
got me, I guess.
have you have a 2 minute and like 30-second rant on Becky Lynch almost every episode.
She must be doing something right.
Every episode of Jabroni Drive. What? And by the way, where is our street sign at?
It fell. It fell down it. Here it is. Sorry.
Show the people.
For
Show the
all
people.
for all for all of yous not watching Jabroni Drive.
Listen,
By the way, Tim, did I
our
hit that
Bucks,
Jabroni Drive great last time? You're like, where's the sign? And I was like, and right as the music, boom, I hit the Jabroni Drive sign.
our budget's a little low right now, so that's what we. That's
So I
what
just
we're.
sit here and hold it. But either way, I get, and like I was saying, I mean, kudos to Becky. She's got me ranting about her every fucking week. So I guess she's doing something right. All right, so Money in the Bank qualifying matches have started, and I'm trying to bring up a topic here now, Tim, and this is something I want to get into. So the Money in the Bank matches have started, and the first match that was on Monday Night Raw was The Miz versus Ricochet. Okay, and I look at a performer like Ricochet, and I think, man, what a talent. Every time I watch Ricochet, he's done all these things, these high flying things. He ends up winning against The Miz. He's going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and he's going to do great. I know he's going to do things on there that we're like, wow, that's going to be tweeted. That's going to be, you know, get the views. It's like, wow, look at him do off the top of this ladder, you know, death defying stuff. He did the thing with Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble where they were both on either side of the ring. They springboard off the top rope, clothesline each other. An incredible moment that was seen all over the world, millions of views. However, he is now going into this Money in the Bank match, and a guy that seems to have it all. What's the most important thing that you can have, and we've kind of talked about it on this show, is is can you sell a fight? Can you have and bring out that emotion from the fans and show the thing? This is where Ricochet's problem is, and maybe it's the writing or maybe it's the booking. I don't know. This guy has everything except for I couldn't tell you one major storyline that he's been in that I've been invested. I don't know one, and he's been up on the main roster for years.
He does this weird thing. And I don't know if you notice it while when he wrestles, like he oversells a lot. Like he does, like
He does.
he's so dramatic with like a lot of his movements and things. Like you'll see him like do his splash and he'll pop up and he'll like he just the way he like carries himself like in the ring is kind of strange. Um
Yeah, he's never dazed. He's either knocked out or he's 100%. You know what I mean? It's never like, oh, they stunned him a little bit there. He's out.
yeah.
And all of a
So
sudden he's back.
I mean look, I had no problem with the way he wrestles. Again, I've only been watching for a little time and he's impressed me the way he handles himself,
Totally impressive.
but you're right. I mean, I don't know what he does right on the mic. You don't hardly ever hear him speak, right? He's been teamed with Braun Strowman for a little bit, and even then, like he hasn't really said much. I think Braun Strowman does most of the mic work when they speak or whatever, but yeah, it hasn't really been much. Um, but dude, just talking about that match real quick again, like I was pretty impressed with the Miz again with the way he handled himself in the ring. Like, I mean, he pulled off a couple solid like high flying moves, like in that.
Hurricane Ranas.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did.
I'm like, dude, this guy still got it, and it's still crazy to me that the dude was on the real world, but it's it was cool to watch that match. I obviously expected Ricochet to win that match. He's got to get some sort of push, and you got to get him involved in some way, shape, or form. I think like a guy like Ricochet would benefit a lot from being in like some type of like fashion.
Right.
Like throw him into maybe like the Judgment Day or something like that, or he's got to get some type of edge. He's just like a guy that's just like a neutral dude, and
Does he have it? Does he have that edge? He just seems like I'm sure he's a very likable guy, great to work with. Obviously, he's a highlight reel when he's out there in the ring, but he doesn't draw
like
any
as
emotion.
like as cheesy as um Finn Balor is sometimes, he comes off like in the Judgment Day as a dude that you hate. Like you're like this fucking little asshole. Like
Yeah,
you
right.
want to, you hate him. And
Yeah, whether it be hate or like, give us something.
yeah. So I think they got to give him an opportunity to kind of really push himself. Maybe I don't know. Maybe teams with somebody and turns on he's got to have some type of like you said, like some type of storyline really that's going to push him over the edge.
It's so funny because then we talk about like I would much rather give him a shot with a Gunther than uh
Yeah.
a Riddle, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and have it be a hard hitting match. But I feel like Gunther took the belts from. I think I want to say that's who he beat to win the belt was Ricochet. So he might have had it, but maybe he had the U.S. and Finn had the. I forget. But so either way, it's guys like that. And then my next question is: you have people that are clearly over with the crowd, and they like there's the Alpha Academy, and I know they haven't been invested in a major storyline, but they're entertaining. And like when I say you have to draw an emotion out, it doesn't have to be an anger, it doesn't have to be a love, or it could be you make someone laugh. They're entertained, and Alpha Academy to me does that. Every time Otis is on, I'm like, oh man, I love this guy. I watch him. And that's what Sami Zayn was a lovable guy that was kind of in this jackass shit. He
Mhm.
wrestled Johnny Knoxville, and you put him into a meaningful storyline. He becomes a lackey, and then people fall in love with him. And next thing you know, they're cheering for him.
Hmm.
You got to start putting these players in the spots to succeed. And you have an Alpha Academy that can do it. LA Knight comes to mind right away as someone that is clearly over. He was getting chance at the Night of Champions premium live event at the press conferences and stuff like that. They're just randomly chanting for LA Knight. My kid loves him when he comes on the show. When is LA Knight going to get the push? Is he going to get the push? He's going against Montez Ford this week for the qualification for Money in the Bank.
That's a tough draw.
That's a tough draw. Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you separate these two? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, because that would be. I don't know. So I only seen LA Knight wrestle a handful of times, and because he was wrapped up in that storyline. Like, look, clearly he's getting a push. He's wrapped up in the storyline with Bray Wyatt, and then that obviously fell flat on its face. But um, I mean, I haven't really seen him wrestle all that often. But look, he's got a great look to him. Yeah, I've seen him with Bugs the last couple of weeks, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, there haven't been really like highly entertaining matches. They're kind of like strongman competitions, but um it would be interesting to see the dynamic between Ford. It's going to be interesting to watch those two wrestle together and see who comes out on top. LA Knight has a lot of character. He has a lot. He's great on the mic. He does obviously bring out an emotion, something that you look for in some of these characters. But um, maybe it's his time, dude. Maybe it is his time. I mean, who else? Who else are we looking at for Money in the Bank in terms of the male side of things?
I have to look up the matches for this Friday. Shinsuke Nakamura won, so he'll be in the Money in the Bank. So Shinsuke, Ricochet, the winner of Montez Ford and LA Knight. And I don't know the next one. Now, part of me has talked about this is a Sheamus winning the Money in the Bank contract. And of course, the title that's always eluded Sheamus is the Intercontinental Championship. And if he wins the Money in the Bank, you could actually sell him wanting to cash in for the Intercontinental Championship as opposed to cashing in on a
Yeah, that's
Roman
not bad.
Reigns or a
Yeah.
Seth Rollins. And that gives you the obvious way of keeping the belts on those guys without having to worry about a Money in the Bank contract cash in. So I don't know if Sheamus is in the tournament. I'm sorry for not having that research to the people out there listening, but we will see in the next couple days. Tim, real quick, what did you think of Jinder Mahal's new tag team
Hmm.
coming out this week? And we're talking about this emotion. These guys are falling flat to me, and it's just like, well, they're never going to connect. What are we doing here?
I again, there's a guy like Jinder Mahal. So they're all doing the same thing. I don't get this. This is very old school to me, right? Like you put these guys together, they wrestle jobbers, they beat the shit out of these jobbers. It's like they're like I can see Omos doing this shit, right?
Right.
But like these dudes they're not the size of Omos. Like they're
Yeah.
not the size, they don't have any cachet to them. Like these dudes are just a couple of guys, right, that look the same. They look like Jinder Mahal. They throw them together, and like this dude Veer, what's his name?
Veer Mahan, I think.
Veer Mahan, whatever. Like they brought him out when I first started watching wrestling again, and they were cutting promos for him. He had like face paint on him,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, and he beat like six jobbers in a row, and then
He was
they
gone.
sent him down to NXT. They paired him with this other guy, and now he's doing the same thing without the face paint. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what are we doing with this guy? Like, and he's like an old Pirates pitcher, right?
Yeah,
Like he used
right.
to pitch for the Pirates. Like, I know who you are, dude. You're not this crazy guy. like,
Yeah.
I, it's just so bad, and I hope to God that they're not pushing these dudes into like a title run of some sort, right? Because in my opinion, and I told you this before, they're not going to keep those belts on KO and Sami Zayn. There's no way that they let them run that
They're
because
too valuable separate.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
too valuable separate, and they're going to drop the belts to somebody, and it's going to be it's going to be probably maybe at SummerSlam. I can see SummerSlam, them dropping the belts and then them going off on the road because KO, dude, I sent you a text the other
You
night.
are a big KO, Mark.
I
You
mean,
love KO.
the guy does it all. I mean, he's great on the mic. He's his comedic value is through the roof. It's very similar to what The Rock does or what The Rock did. Obviously, he's not on that same level, but like he knows his spots where he can turn that comedy level on and he gets the crowd, dude. And he has them. He just doesn't have the catchphrases that The Rock did,
Yeah.
dude.
But then he
He's
can go right to that fight mentality
oh
where
yeah,
he's ready to throw down.
yeah,
And in the ring, he's one of the best in the biz.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
he's got a look that is very, relatable. You see him and you're like, this is a regular guy, kind of, that can throw down, almost like
it,
who was the UFC fighter, like Tank Abbott, I want to say was his name. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like kind of that
Uh,
that guy.
but yeah, I think I just hate the whole and like Jinder Mahal. I don't know how long he's been, but did he just resurface just because of these two
Yeah.
guys?
He had an NXT, like he went back with NXT and he had an NXT championship match where he fell short and then, I want to say he might have had some injuries or just was, lost in the shuffle like a lot of wrestlers happen to be lost. And who knows what they're going to do with these guys, but are you going to put belts on them? I mean, you've already got enough of the
I just
bad guy going around. I don't
it
know.
just feel it feels very like mid 90s tag team throw like dude we talked about the smoking guns earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's throw some cowboy hats on these guys and call them the smoking guns. Like
Yeah.
it's just such a like a gimmicky type of like tag team that they just throw together and now they're forcing it down our throats.
And
And
that's
it's
what was the decline of WWF at the time, and when WCW take over and they introduced more of a realism into it, and that's what sparked the Monday Night Wars and why WCW was winning the ratings war for over a year because they were sick. People were sick of the Duke the Dumpster Drosies. They were sick of like these shtick guys that were,
wait,
whatever.
didn't they have wasn't there a tag team? No, it was the Berserkers, right?
The Berserkers. Yeah. Um,
Remember that dude? He was great.
yeah,
Hook,
yeah.
yeah,
He
Hook.
was the one. Yeah. Is he the one that fell through whatever?
He
But
fell through
so
something.
yeah, I want to say he almost had the it looked like the Star Wars the bad guy's helmet on. It was like painted so whatever. So on this day in wrestling history, we're gonna pay a little homage to Mr. Jake the Snake Roberts. It was his birthday. I think this is. Hey, we're both wearing our sponsor of the show, Jabroni Drive, Homage Shirts. We want to thank Homage Shirts for sponsoring our show. We love your shirts, your hoodies, and all your apparel,
Dude,
big
great material.
wrestling gear.
No.
And happy birthday to Mr. Jake the Snake Roberts out there. A lot of things in wrestling history. He's actually the greatest wrestler, I would say, in WWF history to never hold a major title. Never held a major title, Jake the Snake Roberts did. So never an Intercontinental, obviously never a World Championship title, tag team, whatever you want to say. He never held a major title. Tim, any Jake the Snake Roberts memories that stick out with you?
Um, Jake the Snake. So Jake the Snake, recently, I know was in. He's been in the news because he was a big DDP yoga guy.
Yes, he has
He,
obviously had his demons. And if you haven't watched DDP's documentaries and how he helped out a Scott Hall, Jake the Snake Roberts, I will tell you something. DDP's positive attitude and everything like that, I felt like would annoy me. But this guy is one of the greatest dudes out there with the way he helped these wrestlers come from the dark place
he's
that they were in.
he's also
DDP, mad kudos to him.
he also is one of the more revered guys. I remember in like WCW, like a lot of guys said that like he really helped like just younger talent along, in WCW and help them out and whatever. Anyway, yeah, so Jake the Snake Roberts, that's one thing that I know that he's been in the news recently for. I see him on social media, but um obviously the one thing is Damien, right? Damien was his go-to. That's his snake that he used to carry out to the ring. I know that he was a big DDT guy. That was his finishing move. And like, what sucks about that too is that like it's become such a like everyone does the DDT now. Like everyone
Right,
has a version of it, and it used to be such a great finisher, right? Like, dude, like no one got up from the DDT, like,
right.
and it's just become like a household type of move now, which sucks. But and then I think the biggest thing I remember is one. I think was it I don't even know if it was a pay-per-view or what show it was, but I remember like Randy Savage being tied up in the ropes, and I
Yes.
and I think he didn't he bring out Damien and had like the snake bite him.
The snake bit him right on the arm, and you could see the blood coming out from where the fangs got him, and it was a crazy moment. I was just trying to look it up to see what it was on. It had to be a pay-per-view, but I
Dude,
what
it's like funny. It's like wrestling is so crazy. like you can imagine selling that to Randy Savage for like backstage. Like, all right, Randy. So here's the deal, man. Listen, you're gonna face this wrestler. His name's Jake the Snake. He carries down a python down to the ring. We're gonna have him tie him tie you up into the ropes, and the snake's gonna bite you. Don't worry, the snake's not venomous, but it's like what? Wait, what? Where am I at right now? Like that's how wrestling used to be. It's just
and he's
such
like, yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. He's gonna
yeah,
have the snake
yes.
bite me, and that's gonna be an incredible moment. And it's an infamous moment in wrestling history. And I'm trying to real quick find out what it was from. I want to say it was a Survivor Series. I know it was November 23rd.
So Tom,
So
let me ask you this. So I mean, no major belts. Obviously he's had to have matches, right? With premier guys, right? For
right.
belts. He just never won them. Like, did he have I don't remember because maybe because he never held any belts. I don't know. But did he have like a rival like wrestler? Was there a guy that just
The
like it was
main,
just
like a main rival of Jake the Snake in
yeah.
WWF. Uh maybe it was Macho Man. I would have to say Macho Man, but Honky Tonk Man, trying to think. I think he had a rivalry. I mean, ironically, he's the one that Stone Cold beat to win the King of the Ring, and that's where the phrase, because Jake had found God at that point, and he said, "You can have your Psalms and you can read your books in the Bible." Austin 3:16 says, "I just whipped your ass," which then became the biggest selling T-shirt in the history of the biz. That
I'm look
Austin 3:16.
Tom, I'm looking up Jake the Snake Roberts career rivalries, best rivalries. And we got number one, and this is just a random search. Andre the Giant.
Wow, Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
How
It's
about that? Was that
literally
in WWF?
it says it. Yeah, it says literally the biggest feud of Jake the Snake Roberts' career is his rivalry with Andre the Giant. To keep the Giant from attacking him, Roberts used his snake to scare Andre. The
That's
fear of
pretty
the
cool.
snake caused Andre to have a fake heart attack. Uh, there you go.
I remember that now. That's so funny.
Angered by the tactics of Roberts, the two would feud and see Andre defeat the Snake multiple times. But at WrestleMania 5, the history books read that Roberts was victorious over Andre the Giant um, after he Andre the Giant attacked the referee, causing a disqualification. So Andre the Giant, and then Randy Savage was second. Undertaker was third.
Oh yeah, Undertaker, duh, of course. Yeah. But okay, Randy Savage second, Undertaker third. That makes sense. All right, Tim. So happy birthday to Mr. Jake the Snake Roberts. And over the past week, we were talking about WrestleMania Rewind. You had checked out um the Clash of the Mega Powers, and I suggested that you watch the WrestleMania Rewind with Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Tim, what were your thoughts on the WrestleMania Rewind and the match at WrestleMania 25, widely regarded as maybe the greatest wrestling match of all time?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a classic. I remember seeing clips of this one just like throughout. Like, you ever get lost in like that YouTube, wormhole where you
Yeah,
just keep clicking on shit, and all of a sudden, like, you're at WrestleMania 25 and you see clips. Um it's just incredible. Like, the whole build up to it was great. Um and then, like, when you get to the match, I'm not sure. Was this the one where, was it Triple H was supposed to wrestle this one and he got hurt and then he stepped in, or was that a different match?
I think that was the following year. They wrestled back to back years. The following year became a retirement match.
Right, right, right.
And I want to say I'd have to look back at that, but the year prior to that, they were both like the final two in the Royal Rumble,
Right. Yep.
and it was kind of almost like the setup. And the only person that Undertaker had never beaten was Shawn Michaels. To that
Mhm.
point, he had never beaten Shawn Michaels until that pay-per-view. Spoiler alert. Sorry if you haven't seen it, but Undertaker has a notorious undefeated streak at WrestleMania. But at the time, watching that was an incredible moment. One of the spots from that match was when Undertaker did his leap over the top rope and nosedives into the ground, at the same time hitting the cameraman that Shawn had pulled in his way to block him, and he drops the camera, and there's a crunch right as Undertaker landed. Now, if you look at it over and over again, you realize the crunch is the camera. When I watched that the first, I swore he broke his neck, and what an incredible job Undertaker did of selling that. One of the best sells on a count out I've ever seen, and he's getting up and he's staggering, and I was like, he's not. This is over, and he ends up getting back in the ring. Tim, I think you had mentioned another spot in that match that you really loved. There were several, but I want to say the last ride.
Oh, well, yeah. So, eh, that match prominently featured just multiple finishing moves. And I think that's what made the match so great, is just that these guys just battle tested, worn, like, just throughout this entire match. And each of them hit finisher after finisher after finisher. And it was an old school, like, 12 round heavyweight fight. And just, yeah, they left it all in the tank. And yeah, Shawn Michaels hits super kick after super kick. And like, earlier in the
Moonsaults
match.
off the top. You
Well,
had
yeah,
the tombstones. You had last
well,
rides. You had
well
the
it,
whole deal.
dude, the one spot, like, you see him, look, the Undertaker, when he hit Tombstone, that was it. Like, growing up watching the Undertaker, if he hit the Tombstone, that was it. And because, like, you remember, he'd hit the Tombstone, he'd fold your arms over like he was putting you in the casket,
Roll the
roll
eyes.
the eyes, stick out the tongue, and that was it. And he does it mid match, and Shawn Michaels kicks out, and you're just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It does not happen. And you're like, all right, so this match has got to end soon. Like, he's gonna hit like a choke slam or something, then probably. And dude, it goes on for another like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and you're just like, dude, some of the just unbelievable athleticism. It's when Undertaker is just probably in some of the best shape he's ever been in. He's walking the ropes, he's doing that shit. He's diving out of the ring. Like,
Yeah. Still
people for
peak athlete there. They still had it. It wasn't too far. Later on in Undertaker's career and the streak and everything like that, there were some matches. It was like, okay, here we go, and he wasn't his full self, and injuries and age catches up with everybody. So I'm not knocking him, but it's a fact.
and
You watch the matches and you're like, all right, whatever.
and you know what else is like, what vintage Undertaker, and I don't want to keep on. I know we're pressed for time here, but in that match, right? It's vintage Undertaker. It's when Paul Bear he's not his manager anymore. There's no urn. But if you remember back in the day, like when Paul Bear would bring out the urn, that's where the Undertaker would draw his power from, and he would sit up, right? He would sit up, and like, dude, that was always like something. I'm like, dude, this fucking guy's out of control, like this dude.
Right.
And it's one of the last times I remember seeing him do that. Before like every once in a while he would throw it in, but like he was doing it during that match. He would sit up, and there was a really cool moment where HBK, they both were down, I think, after each hitting a finishing move, and Heartbreak Kid does his flip
jump up,
the jump up, and at the same, like 2 seconds later, the Undertaker sits up, and it's just like, dude, this is awesome, dude.
All time.
And obviously the Undertaker hits the last ride, and then he hits another tombstone. He catches. What happens is like I think it's Shawn Michaels. He gets tossed over the ropes. He holds onto the ropes, and he tries to bring himself back over, and the Undertaker catches him.
Yep.
And he's already in the tombstone position, hits the tombstone, 1, 2, 3, it's over. But it was just insane. I think they hit like probably a total of 8 finishing moves in a span of like fucking 10 minutes. So
I wonder
awesome.
if that's the beginning of the death of the finishing move. We talked about it briefly earlier on the show about how the finishing move, you seem to see all these quote unquote finishing moves that now are hit more and more often. A spear is kicked out of or something like that, and you start to think, oh man, I wonder if that was the beginning of it all. When I think about it, I think it might have been. Incredible match. If you haven't checked it out, WrestleMania 25, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. I would suggest watching the WrestleMania Rewind because it gives you a whole recap leading into it and then the match right after. So if you haven't checked it out, go check that match out. Tim, another great show of Jabroni Drive.
Fantastic.
People love it. I love it. We've covered it all from Night of Champions to Jake the Snake Roberts and Damian.
Tom, you were the champion of the night. You were yawning there at the end. I thought I was losing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes you know what? I have a tendency to yawn and just like, no, I'm fine, but I throw a yawn out there. Is that weird?
No, it's perfectly
Hopefully that wasn't on camera. If it is, I'm cutting it out. But we want to thank you all for listening. If you like what we're doing, please leave us a like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell anyone that you know that likes professional wrestling to check this out. From our one viewer, he said he was very impressed with our professional wrestling show.
Thank you.
So, look at that. You got a great review. Appreciate that, Robbie, if you're still listening.
Fuck, it was Robbie? God damn it.
We've got a couple good reviews on the wrestling show, but he's the one that most checks us out. Tim, anything you got to say to the Schmidt and Lavelle lights out there before we sign off?
Well, if you guys didn't like this episode, we got 2 words for you.
Suck it! Thanks for listening to Jabroni Drive. My name's Tom Lavelle. As always, I'm accompanied by Mr. Timothy Schmidt. Till next week, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you after SmackDown and Raw. God bless America. And God bless Jabroni Drive.
I had an American flag around there somewhere.